Are we good, Marshall?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, all right, just checking. Now I ain't talking much.
Well, we didn't have sound there for a second. Right?
Yeah, I'm saying he over there. I told you that's why I didn't talk. I read his body language. His little Ep6 be tapping on the ground like this and whatnot. He ain't. Yeah.
It's okay. We have 0 viewers anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember
Yeah.
that. You got to remember that.
We got one. We got Adrian.
That's you. That's you showing up on the computer.
That's you.
It's Adrian.
Yeah, I told you it's Adrian. All right. Well, thank y'all for coming. This is episode 6 of Black Truths, White Truths. This is episode 7 of Black Truths, White Truths. We're starting to get some very, very good shows coming in. You know, I like our authenticity. I like that things aren't scripted. I like that things don't always go smoothly because they understand that this is real for us. This is real talk. This is real people, real sides of us that may not everybody see because the community likes to assume who you are, put you in that box, and let you be nothing else, you know. So I really, really enjoy, you know, what we have created along with the relationships that we have that will come in and sit down at a table with you and discuss some things that publicly might not always be talked about. So where would you like to start at that? Because I'm anxious to talk to our guests, man. Because I talk to her anyway because it's my friend. But y'all might not always see us together, our families together, but our mindsets align more than they, you know, diverge. But everybody understands they have their part to play in this thing we call life, you know. So, yeah. So the last show that we had, that's what, because Marshall go crazy if we don't talk about, you know.
Is Yolanda on camera now?
She's on one of the views.
Yeah, but we're not doing like the special guest reveal. Dude, she's standing right here.
No, I'm talking about, but I mean, we want to incorporate her in the whole atmosphere, right? So we talked about.
Ask her how our last show was. See how that goes.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. You don't want to hurt our feelings. That like I didn't watch y'all. Who is you? You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, we talked about some of the things that the viewers had questions about, comments, and that was good. That was good for me. You know what I'm saying? So anything that we say that you agree with, don't agree with, have questions about, you know, contact us. Let us engage you. You know, we don't survive without you. You know, we are you. All right.
It's true. That's the whole point of the show. We literally are just trying to start some conversations. You know, this is you call it a passion project. It's a truth project. It's a project that we believe in, that we feel like is a channel where it doesn't exist right now in Charlottesville, or if it does, it exists in like in silos where people have trust with each other, but when they try to get out, there's no language for that yet in town, you know, where people can navigate other people's versions of this conversation. And I think the more we can out some of the assumptions, myths, and you know, just misbeliefs, you know, we can have a better conversation about moving things forward.
Well, let's jump into it. With you coming from the South, right?
Deep South.
Deep South.
The dirty.
Alabama?
Roll Tide.
Alabama.
Roll Tide,
Okay.
baby.
So before we start talking about the reason that we brought you here, last week's question that we had for everybody was, what is a assumption on the black side of what a white truth is? And for the white listener, what is the assumption for the black side? You know? So let's say, for instance, what's something that you assume is kind of goes across the board for the majority of white people?
That's a very interesting question. I would say that they always have someone that they can turn to that's going to help them out.
Advocate.
Yep.
Always got an advocate. Mine would be, I don't think that white people understand what policing is really about. I think that their color makes them invisible holistically to policing. You know, they don't wake up and wonder, am I going to have to go through the speed trap? Can I not look at the cop too long? Can I, you know, without being a college kid who's drunk out on the lawn and doing what should get you locked up, and then expecting, as like the Commonwealth attorney said, to not have to go through the ramifications of your actions because you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something once you graduate. So that's mine. So what is it black people go through, Mr. Giles?
Well, I think there's this, I think it's what we were talking about before the show started.
Mm-hmm.
In a community like Charlottesville, where everyone's in the white world is ranking each other on site by all the different codes that white people use to try to get the cheese.
Mm-hmm.
The place they put black people is at the bottom of the food chain. Mm-hmm. And so the first conversation you have with someone, their assumption is, you're poor or you work with or for the poor. Mm-hmm. Mm. And therefore, if we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, you're really not someone who understands the landscape that we're talking about over here.
Mm. Which brings us to why this lovely lady is here today. Entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Being a black female thriving in entrepreneurship in a town that wasn't designed for you to be here and do what you're doing. How difficult of waters is that to navigate? Like, because you're not, while you did have a food business, mm-hmm. or still have a food business, you weren't known for being the cook of what traditionally would have went all the way back to years and years ago, mm-hmm. of what we did to ascend in certain places, mm-hmm. around white people. So, but doing all that you're doing when it comes to property, land, opportunity, how difficult is that when you go into a room to pitch your idea to people that don't look like you that's going to give you this money? How difficult is that on the entrepreneurship side?
Well, it's very interesting because it's difficult for different reasons. So it's difficult, to Giles's point, there's this automatic assumption that black equals poor. That, to me, I've experienced it more here than I have ever experienced it in any other place that I've lived. And I've lived in a number of different places throughout the South, mm-hmm. Which those of us from Alabama don't really consider Virginia as the South, just putting that out there. So, and I grew up mostly in South Carolina. And so it's interesting because you've got an automatic assumption that you don't know what you're doing and that you don't have the background or the capacity to be able to pull off what you're suggesting. Mm-hmm. And have you done the market research? It's all of these just natural assumptions from the white community. And then from the black community, then sometimes it's the same assumptions, mm-hmm. but also it's the assumption of we can't do that. Or how can we do that? Or they won't let you. Yeah, and I want to know who the hell is they. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No. Oh, he gonna get way worse than that. So,
the show is rolling now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. He got a potty mouth, as my kids used to say. He got potty mouth.
But it's the infamous they, and then also just kind of putting us in a box as a group of people as though we absolutely can't get more than where we are right now. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, instead of believing that we can be more, that we can attain all the dreams that we have, mm-hmm. then it becomes a scenario of like, that's just too big. And I get that from both the white and the black, mm-hmm. that it's just too big. And how, the audacity of you to dream bigger than where we feel like you should be dreaming.
That sounds very non-profity.
Yeah. My background is not from the nonprofit world. So it's been a very interesting transition for me, coming from a corporate background to going into, or I should say a for-profit, because a nonprofit is a corporation, right. But coming from a for-profit to a nonprofit and then just kind of the assumptions that folks make around that. Nonprofit is a status that is not about whether or not you make money or not. You need to be making money, right? It's a business.
Right.
And, but somehow there's this assumption as though, well, you shouldn't be making any money as a nonprofit, you should, just like you should barely be getting by. And so sometimes that's the mindset of donors. Like, why would you want to pay that person what they're worth, in my opinion? But they devalue that individual because you're a nonprofit. So that person shouldn't be making what they would be making in a for-profit environment.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of thinking that goes on that is based on either biased or just individuals' limitations that they want to place on you.
I'm curious. You said a lot of things there, but you also connected entrepreneurship and business to social entrepreneurship in your nonprofit segue, right? Which is, same thing. Businesses, you're running a business, you're trying to get something done. There's a scale to it. You have to communicate whether you can get it done, and ultimately, people got to buy that, whether it's a philanthropist or investor or somebody like that, right?
Absolutely.
So. And when I knew you, when you moved to town running a big fancy hotel on the corner, right? That was your first job in Charlottesville, or?
Yep, that's what brought me here.
And so you've been running big fancy hotels across the South, looking at communities, how they behave, who comes through, where the money moves, I imagine. And then now I see, you, as quiet as you can be, Yolunda, you're in a lot of rooms, right? So are you seeing a shift in these behaviors as a result of the conversations around race and equity we're having? Or is that because there's a lot of momentum in the nonprofit world, I would say, of investing in Black-owned, Black-run initiatives, right?
There's a lot of talk about
Thank you.
investing.
Thank you.
But then it comes along with all of the same old rules, right? You've got to show this proven track record that of performance, right? So if I'm new, how do I have that proven track record of performance? If I've never built a house before, then how can I prove that I've built houses before, right? So it still becomes, we still are putting all of these roadblocks or all of these hoops that still need to be jumped through. But if you can jump through them all, then at the end of it, then yes, there will be this investment. And in some of it, you see where they'll say, well, you have to have done, let's say in the nonprofit world, well, if you're a builder, then you have to have done, millions of dollars in development already. Well, before I can get the money to help me build up my capacity as an organization, I have to have done millions of dollars in business already. It's not really as good as it seems. It sounds great, but at the end of the day, how is that money really making it to the grassroots organizations that need the finances to build their internal capacity, so that they can actually, get what they're trying to do to the next level? And so for me, I often hear a lot of great talk, but I don't always see a lot of great action, or it's crumbs, we'll give you some money. How about $2,000? But then I'm going to make you write a book in order to get it.
I know, going back to what you were saying earlier, Giles, when it comes to business, my first business in Charlottesville, well, the talk show, my wife's talk show was the first business. But when we came down here with the hot dog cart on the downtown mall, 6th Street, I ended up buying the hot dog cart from Catch the Chef. Tyler's like my brother. As I grew, my business automatically became his business. He owned both of them, like from the black and the white side. As we grew and we got more popular, everything became, oh, Tyler owns this. Oh, he let you in here. Oh, that's his business too. The way we were moving, there was no way a black person, wait a minute, your wife black too? Like, I even had a person come up to me and
You're
my
fully
wife.
black?
Yeah, right.
You're not just on paper, as
Right.
Razor likes to say.
I had people come up to me and ask me if my wife was my nanny, because of the way that I moved. I had to be married to a white woman. They was like, oh, she's so good with your kids. Like, what are you talking about? That's my wife. That's your wife? Man, I thought you was married to a high maintenance white woman. I said, why? You know what I'm saying? Because, besides the Harrells, there was no black family, and I don't mean no shout on nobody else. Charles Sharika, my lovely family, them two. But To see a black man and a black woman and have black kids and be together out there working your business on the downtown mall, and people got asked, how did you get down here? Did you have to pay much? How much money? Like, they were trying to make me verify why I was there. Like, so in this town of Charlottesville, my black truth was I grew so fast that somebody had to be the reason that I got to that point.
Right.
I just couldn't be.
Right. Minimizing your ability,
Yeah.
your knowledge, your willingness to put the work in, that it had to be coming from some other source.
I was
other than you.
overseeing somebody else's stuff.
Right.
This couldn't be mine in entire, not all yours. I mean, like, people, and I don't really know that white people have to answer those type of questions.
Oh, gosh.
You know, like, you may have an answer as to why you down here in this black neighborhood, white boy, what you here for, you know what I'm saying? But if you have a thriving business, like people of Indian descent, Afghanistan, and I just mentioned them, that can own like 7-Eleven type stores, they can set them there and nobody's going to say, man, who let you down here? Where'd you get the money from to do all this? But as a black person, you know, we look at how you moving. If the tire ain't hanging off the side and it's dirt and whatever, like, is this really yours? This is really nice.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of those things when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, which is two totally different things, because a lot of times a entrepreneur does it for lack of employment. Like, I want to aspire to make certain things, but you're only going to pay me X amount of dollars. But my white counterparts will say, man, you know what? I'm going to start this business right here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it thrive. But for black people, sometimes it's a matter of fact, for me being an ex-con and having the mindset that I had, whenever I got to a certain point, they could always default to chapter 13 on me to keep me at a certain place. So I started my own business, you know, where it was me being an electrician, me cleaning cars. I did services where they couldn't dictate how much I did and how much I moved, you know, so.
Well, I mean, Charlottesville, though, like, you think about this, I mean, I'm curious. We're going to say we're going to have a show on entrepreneurship. Who's going to be our guest? And who are people going to guess is going to be our guest in Charlottesville? If we said, if we said we're going to do next week's show on entrepreneurship and we're going to have someone right, you know, with their finger right on the pulse of this, who's that person going to be? Do you think they're going to guess Yolanda?
Is that a rhetorical question?
That is a rhetorical question, because I think that they're going to guess, you know, you've got, you know, Jaffrey Woodruff, or you got Corin Capshaw, or you got, you know, where does the money come from in this town to make things fly, right? That's the question you're asking, right?
Right.
Is where is the capital coming from? How do you get to the capital?
Well, and what's interesting too, Giles, is that when we talk about entrepreneurship in different spaces, so you've got entrepreneurship at certain levels. The only thing they're thinking about is the big business of entrepreneurship. You know, the folks that are employing, you know, 100, 200 people, you know.
Which still called small business by tax.
Exactly.
Yeah,
as long as it's under
crazy.
10 million,
Yeah.
you know, and under, 249 or 250 employees, then it's a small business. But at the same time, that a lot of what we see in terms of resources, in terms of, you know, who certain groups are going to, you know, invest in, it's going to be those big scalable businesses, and scalable is the word that we love to use, that's got an exit strategy. And so part of what I like to advocate for, but what about the mom and pops that want a business that allows them to have a wonderful life here in Charlottesville, that they may just want to leave to their children so that the children can have a business and they have a wonderful future, that doesn't ever get to a place where it employs 100 people or 200 people. But at the end of the day, it allows them to have a much better life than if they just work for somebody else. But there's very little that, in terms of the broader community, in terms of what resources are being pushed towards that. You have organizations that, you know, focus on that. You have like micro lenders like CIC or Fountain Fund that have microloans, but even within that, you've got a cap as to how much money is being lent out through those organizations. And so it becomes that the big business that we love to talk about in terms of entrepreneurship are the things that are really going to employ a lot of people.
Yeah.
As though these small businesses, which really make up most of, you know, of America in terms of the business, that are owned or by these little small mom and pops, that tends to not be the focus from a state level, and even from who we're going to invest in level. I was this year, I'm sure as a lot of people did, we grew our knowledge on things, and I went through a program with Babson College. It's called Be Well, Black Women Entrepreneurial Leadership Program. And the reason why these Black ladies, professors at Babson College decided to put this program on, because when they started looking at the statistics of how much money is made by women in business, that Black women on average, their annual income from it's like $24,000, whereas for the average woman in business it's about $142,000. That's a significant difference, right? And so it's like, what is driving that difference? And then going through that program, we had an opportunity to hear from a variety of people, and there was a gentleman that works in the investment world in helping manage funds, and he was talking about how when Black people go to, let's say an angel network for an investment in their business, but yet they don't have that track record that says that they can do it. All the questions are around risk. How do we avoid the risk of giving you this money, and how can we be sure that our money can be made back? Whereas a white person can go before that same group and it's all about, wow, that's very innovative. They don't have the track record either, but how can we help make this work? Everything is about how can it succeed. And so, and that story, was told over and over again from individuals who had pitched, to these angel investors in different areas. It's all about the risk. How do we make sure that this Black person doesn't lose our money? Versus the white person who has the same amount of experience. Wow, that's innovative, and how can we make sure it can be successful?
Because three people that kid's age and their parents, and so was in the same fraternity as that person, and so you have all this acuity of their situation. Not that you're being casual. Those people are ruthless. They're seeing. They have such a better view of that person and their ability to control that person, right? They're looking into your world terrified. And I think that's one of the things maybe, I mean, I don't want to make that excuse for white angel investors, because it's not an excuse. It's just to say sometimes we talk about what it looks like from the Black side versus what it looks for the white side. And I'm like, man, white people are ruthless with each other when money is on the line. So they are even worse with you. Right. And that's and so that kind of mentality where you don't really know that you're thinking, I solved the problem they said they wanted solved, and I'm bringing it to them easy at a scale that is like 10 times less than I know they're giving to their main for-profit endeavors right now. And the answer is, I don't think you can pull it off.
It's crazy because they will, like, you'll have Black people that will run a person's business for 20 years that can't get the money to start their own business in that exact same realm.
Yeah. Well,
our insurance will be higher. There's so many different factors that we don't talk about. And one thing that I would like to jump in, because I don't want to lose this thought, is that Black businesses, entrepreneurship, get judged at a different rate. If I make a mistake and a Black person comes to spend their money with me, they'll say, see, that's why I can't support Black business. Y'all were late getting here. Y'all dropped the hot dog, or y'all whatever. But and I ain't going back no more. But with the 1 out of 50 businesses, and 1 being Black and 49 being white, when they have a bad experience with the white businesses, Black people don't write off white businesses.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
if you have a master's from Darden and you're white and you've been here for 10 years, you could fail 3 to 4 times completely and still catch your wave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's part of the learning process. They took that 3 years out. They didn't get their second round, but man, they learned a lot of lessons. Their perspectives on this one looks good and scalable. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And that becomes the big difference, right? To your point, we can't fail. We don't have the luxury of failure being an option for many reasons. the failure may not be an option because we know we'll never get another chance,
Yep.
especially if we borrow money or someone invested in us.
Yep.
We absolutely cannot, that just can't
Yeah,
happen.
failure isn't an option.
And not only are we thinking about it from the perspective of us, but then all the other people that look like us.
That come behind
I
us.
can't mess this up because then
Yep.
Raisin's
Won't
not
get
going to get an
opportunity.
opportunity when it's his turn.
Yep.
Because I'm going to have screwed it up for him, right? We don't have the luxury of just being able to say, I'm going to think about this only for how it affects me and my family. And that puts a lot of added pressure. But then on top of that, you have, you see others out there failing and getting funded again, right? And you're like trying to figure out, like, how is this? That person, like, when I look at their perspective, it doesn't look like much to me, or it doesn't look any different than mine. But surely, I mean, you may say it's because, well, I know more about your background or whatever. But from my perspective, do you really, or is it just because they look like somebody that you would trust?
Yeah, that was a very white answer that you gave there, Mr.
Well,
Giles.
I mean, I was trying to explain one version of the white psychology around this
Yeah,
stuff,
that was
right?
a
Which
very
is like
white answer.
these guys. I've known a lot. I mean, I've known a lot of angel investors.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of them, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't do a very good job of getting them to invest in me. I'll tell you that much. So I guess take my advice with
You hang around black people too much,
with
Mr.
a grain
That's
of
your
salt.
problem.
But what I'm saying is. Like there's even layers, there's embedded layers of unconscious bias just in how capital moves in the white world, right? Like the whole point of everyone going to Goldman Sachs together out of 6 schools is that they literally all know each other. Like, and then when they go back to New York and DC and LA and San Francisco, they still all know each other. And then they are at those banks until they become VPs, and then they get to the smaller private equity banks, and then they're in M&A, and then they're in venture. And then they know everyone, literally everyone, all up and down the food chain.
That still doesn't make sense to me, though, Giles, because, like, when you look at just taking, just bear with me for a second. You take inventions that have been made across the United States and the input that the black community has had on those, even the ones that were stolen, especially, when you really look back, there's not much that America created that black people didn't create first that was stolen from, but you didn't have the right to say. So profit and business was grown off the back of somebody else's invention, right? We look at certain things where the devaluing of, or the risk factor of the way America looks at black people doesn't make sense to me, because the most technologically advanced society of all time was in Egypt. Now, Egypt is in Africa, but they don't even teach that. Like, so by default, those were Africans that we're talking about that created all these mass things. Come on over to America. The wrench, the cell phone, the stoplight, the cotton picking machine, you name it. Like, everything that white businesses have grown off of has liquor. It's just, I can't even name everything. It just doesn't make sense. So when you have people that created all these things, and then you say, okay, I have an idea, let me get some money so I can profit. I don't think it's much as risk as it is the fact of, I can't let you up the totem pole. If I let you up the totem pole, then you'll usher in other people, which will block us. That it's easier for me to steal than it is for me to create. So if I can grab you and usher you over here, so it's you by yourself, but if you help over here, I'm gonna push you out, then that makes us isolate ourselves. Like, that's the truth that I have experienced in America. But you can't even say it, because then you get, ostracized and isolated, and then you're by yourself. And then we don't do a good job of protecting ourselves in the black community to fund these businesses or to fund these ideas and to make it grow. So then the only way that we sustain a lot of times is to let other people in. So now that's our lifeline. So is it really a black business because my face is on the front of it? The Aunt Jemima pancake box at a black lady for forever, but I'm quite sure that wasn't her business. Uncle Ben, all that type stuff. So we're only thrived and marketed on what can be taken advantage of. So when you have businesses like ours that can stand on our own 2 feet, even when people decide not to fund you just because of the way that you look, I mean, what do you do, when it comes to entrepreneurship? So just because I start entrepreneurship, can I turn it into a business without being blocked. That's the thing for me.
Well, and I think, there's the white side of it, and then there's the black side of it as well. When we look at like the dollar circulation, right, by race in this country, our dollar stays in our community. Well, let's say, I think
60 seconds.
It's 6 hours, but then you've got in the Asian community it's 30 days, in the Jewish community it's 20 days, in other communities it's days, weeks, but it's only hours for us.
Well, when it was more, it was burnt down. You got Tulsa, you got North Carolina, you got Philadelphia. Like, these are the stories that don't nobody want to talk about. Like, it's the ugly truth. Like, saying like the people that came before you on one side or the other were some horrible individuals that when I was doing the same thing as you were doing, mine had to be destroyed because you couldn't infiltrate it. One of the worst things that I think happened was integration. I think black people were supposed to integrate our money, but we were supposed to stay over in our corner. And then when we started believing that the white man's ice was colder, then we started losing our business and our value as well. That's just Razor's take. So
you look at me. I want to hear Yolanda's take on Razor's take.
No, I think it's a valid point. I know that when prior to integration, right, we had our own communities that we supported, because this is where we could shop. This is where we could, have our community. Where we get, we can know each other and we can do business with one another. We didn't have to go
back to Africa to do it because we didn't like it, because that's a good thing. You don't like it here? Go on back to Africa. You know what I'm saying? Well, give me a ship, my yacht, I'll go and fish all the way. Indeed, I will.
And so I think that absolutely there is this. In a lot of ways, we forsaked our community in thinking that this other community was somehow going to make us more valid, that being able to, do business with just each other was somehow not, it was not giving us the level of prestige or notoriety that we were maybe looking for, or because when we were trying to do bigger things, we were being told that, oh, well, you're only doing business over here, so you need to diversify, how you're doing your business.
AKA, a lot of black men marry white women. Just
no, but I hear what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying that's a big part of it. Like, it justifies you. I can my boy that was in the show, 100 Black Men. Daniel. When Daniel made the comment that I can marry your daughter, that I can, think about it. I have to justify that I'm at a certain level to be able to marry somebody who I fell in love with based off my color. That's sad, dude. But especially here at this particular town, you find a lot of people that will marry marry whoever you fall in love with. Absolutely so. But there are black men, white women, I'm telling you, that come after you because they want to be validated and be able to grow in life. They want better credit. They do these particular things. Like, I know there's a lot of black guys getting upset with me. It is with the business part. So, like, I have a great business idea. I want to go at it with this woman sitting beside me so that the loan may be more favorable because they're looking at, I've already crossed over in certain realms. But we won't have that conversation because it looks like you're saying, okay, everybody needs to stay in their own corner. People will make it about something else that it's not. But when it comes to business, there's a lot of justifications that have to be done, like Yolanda said, in order to be looked upon a certain way.
I mean, one of the points of the show, in my opinion, I don't know if we have any audience questions yet or comments, but one of the points to me of the show, though, is this, like, we're going to say, okay, we're going to tell the truth and we're going to talk about where we are with clear eyes, but we're also going to say, okay, let's take at face value Charlottesville's conversation with itself, that it wants to invest in black communities now.
Do they?
Well, let's say, a lot of people say that.
What's a black community?
Let me ask the question. So from and a lot of that money seems to be nonprofit, right? Money. So if we're talking about entrepreneurship and investing in, you say, wealth building businesses in black communities, what do we need to do differently? right? What do people need to know different and do different in order for that
They
tap
really,
to turn on here?
they
Like,
really need to invest in them and not talk about investing in them.
So one of the things that our organization, New Hill Development Corporation, for those,
New Hill Development
New Hill.
Corporation.
Yeah, that's right.
when we did the Star Hill vision plan, we held a number of focus groups, and one of the focus groups was with entrepreneurs, because we really wanted, as we were doing our market analysis, we really wanted to understand how do we fit into the economy, the local economy, and was there an economy just for the Black community? And so through that process, I mean, we looked at national information, but we also wanted to get the local perspective and say, okay, so why do we not see more public facing Black owned businesses in Charlottesville? And get, an answer to that question. I mean, we had our thoughts behind it, but we need to hear, and it still lines up very clearly with what some of the national issues are: access to capital, right? How much money we're able to get, mentorship opportunities, and how much opportunities do we get to be able to bid on business or whatever those things are. And then in Charlottesville, because of how expensive it is and the lack of vacancy, it proved to be very difficult for people to be able to get a storefront business going in Charlottesville, or to even, if it wasn't a public facing business, something that in an office space proved to be very, very difficult. And so one of the things that we suggested is we need an incubator. We need spaces just for us, designed by us, with us in mind, to be able to bring our businesses to life, but also giving us a space where we can get that business started without the significant overhead costs that many of us would have to experience for some of those smaller businesses. That's for the small business. That adds to the fabric of our community. Many of us as Black people that move to this community, our first thought is, where are all the Black people?
Where are the Black people?
And then how do I do business with other Black people? Where are those businesses at? You've got Destiny, who's put together, she's done a wonderful job in putting together the directory for Black owned businesses. And then you've got Black Seaville now that's come on the scene as well, that's making it a little bit easier to find out where Black businesses are located. But one of the things that we struggled with when we were doing the market analysis was just trying to find information. And so for me, it was, if we're not tracking it, then we probably really don't care about it, was my take on it. Because if the things that you care about, you're going to track it, right? You're going to know where what your sectors are, how much are those sectors bringing in. But when you start to look at it by, well, how many Black businesses exist and and what sectors are they in, couldn't find that information. We kind of have to piece it together. And so that says to me, if you haven't started at a basic level of saying, we just want to know where everybody is and what they're doing, what kind of business they're running, then if you haven't done that, then you don't really care.
Yeah.
Because you at least do the basic work.
Right.
And so the groups that have done the basic work are the Black people. The Black people decided we're going to put together a directory and figure out where we all are, right? And encourage others to opt in so that we can understand. The university didn't have that information. The city, the county, nobody had that information.
Right.
So that says to me that it wasn't a priority. So if we say now that we're ready to invest, then how are we ready to invest? So one of the things that, we've been doing is shopping this idea of the incubator. We put together a plan around that, but it's still difficult to find people that are ready to say, oh yeah, we can totally support that.
Yeah.
Because it's a space for us. Well, is it just for Black people? Well, there are plenty of co-working spaces. There's plenty of catalyst programs that hardly anybody that looks like me is in, that no one is really questioning those spaces. And they'll say, well, but these co-working spaces, I mean, they're Black people can go in them. It's one thing to go into a space that was designed for you. And it's another thing to say, well, you're welcome to come in if you would like to come in. That's a big difference. And so what we heard was, we want our own space. We want spaces that we own. We want spaces where our culture can come to life and it doesn't get co-opted by other people, namely the white race, but other folks, that it is for us and it's designed for us.
And it'd be okay without there being a problem. Like, not to get political or anything, but just something as simple as saying Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying? Or we want to have Black institutions where we can go and learn the truth about who I am. Seems to be a problem for other people in this town. Like, if I was to say white only television, like BET, or the white only television, I'd be a racist. Like, it's always looked upon like, why do you have a problem with Black people saying that they want to have something that they can enjoy? If you have an Asian station or a Spanish station, nobody shows up like that. But for whatever reason, people go out of their way to try to figure out ways to halt Black growth in entrepreneurship. You know?
It seems like talking about the Charlottesville music scene in some ways, right? It's like if it's a good enough act, the audience is going to be white just by definition. They're gonna all buy all the tickets, like 5 seconds after they go on sale online, right? Mm-hmm. And then, even though it was a Black act for a Black audience with a Black programming committee that chose them, you see the show, and unless you make it real clear ahead of time by naming your event the Blacks Only Music Festival, which you don't do, obviously, if you're throwing a community event, the crowd's white. And it's like, I think in business in Charlottesville, it's like that as well, right? And I guess one question I have is, with as much connectivity as there is around entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship with Darden Business School, which is right up the road, is that channel open in the Black community right now? Is there Black Darden alumni connected with Black local entrepreneurship in the way that you would think would be a no-brainer in a situation like this?
I don't think so.
I mean, nope.
And I think because we still have that town and gown mentality here. We have, and I know what it's like I moved around a lot with my career, and I can tell you that there were many places that I lived, where I had no concept about what was going on in the local community, because I was there to do my job. I was there for a purpose, and then I was on to the next place, right? If I lived there a couple of years or whatever, I may know a little bit here and there, but I just don't really know. And I feel like what happens is we get a lot of folks that may come to the university. They're here to get from the university what they came to get. And even if they decide to stay, their social circle and the folks that they are communicating with mainly are at the university. They're not necessarily getting out into the local community and looking for those opportunities. I mean, even with New Hill, we still struggle with getting just Black individuals, Black students from the university that intern with us, right? We'll get plenty of white kids that want to intern with us, but like getting Blacks. So but part of that too is, not to minimize, the struggle that the Black folks at the university are going through, because it's a struggle for them too, right? So for some of them, it may be like, heck, I just want to get through what I got to get through and get the hell up out of here and get to some place where there is a lot more diversity and people are welcoming my talents and my perspective. And so I definitely don't want to minimize that, but it becomes a struggle when you want to get that knowledge passed on to the local community from this group up here, because sometimes when they're up here, one, they're under so much stress, but two, then other folks there are, well, why are you only helping Black people in the community? Why are you not, diversifying who you're going to work with? They're being judged as well. So there's definitely opportunity. No,
and I don't put it on the fact that I just think the money does flow that way in the white world, right? But it's partly because there's local, venture capital people and private equity people who went there and then brought their money back, right? So like they have a word of mouth recruiting network, they have a startup network. There are many ways to get your first project funded. But to your point, this is supposed to be scalable and with an exit strategy in 2 years and make me 10 million too, right?
Exactly.
And like, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
No, I'm not interested in this other stuff you're talking about. We need to start like the no exit investment network or something. The Black Angels no exit investment network, and motorcycle club.
And then there are Black businesses that want to scale and want to have an exit strategy, but they still face over scrutiny by by those venture capitalists, because they're, again, assuming that, this may be risky, and is this what I really want to risk my money on, or do I want to go with someone else because I know their dad, or I know what fraternity that they go to? Doesn't make them any better of an investment, but because they have that knowledge. And so, when we were doing our engagement, we went with a company that helped us to do some of our online stuff out of the gentleman's out of San Francisco. Well, he went to UVA. He started his business here, but he couldn't get funded here. So he had to go to, he's a black gentleman, had to go to California in order to get funded. He was able to get funded there, right? But at the same time, we like to talk about how we're so open-minded and so liberal, and we're open to making sure that everybody has an opportunity, and long as it perfectly lines up with all the ways that we feel like an entrepreneur should be. And if you don't line up in that, then
business is business.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Giles.
Razor's mad at me just for having this conversation. I think I could just tell for the last half hour of the show that he kind of wants to reach out and punch me right now.
I got questions, man. Like, all right, this is one thing that I don't like, whether it's from the black side or white side, is that as a black entrepreneur, if I want to take a young gentleman, young female, and teach them what I've learned, right, to grow, it has to be, for me, it's been assumed that if I want to reach back, I have to go into whatever the most impoverished area is and grab the child that only has one mom, that the dad has the worst. He not there. He behind on child support. He locked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's who we're supposed to always go back and get. But I've never even said, like, okay, Giles, you want to teach somebody in the newsroom? I need you to go over to this trailer park, and I need you to kick them Budweisers out the way, and I need you to grab this little kid. But that's what we're told that we're supposed to do. So when you have organizations like the 100 Black Men, they get scrutinized for saying, well, you're only grabbing the best of the best that's going to raise to the top anyway. Like, we have so many different trap doors in black entrepreneurship that it's not fair. Like, why? I don't understand why we allow ourselves, with our spending power as African Americans, to be funneled into to those categories that are pretty much set for, okay, if New Hill is going to grow and they stay within their family, their own circle, once they pass away, that dies off unless somebody else can come take it over and turn it into something else. It can't really be ushered and passed over to the next black person. I've watched it happen with black newsrooms down Danville area. I've watched it happen with thriving black. I say this in the most respectful way. When Mel passes away, Mel's Diner, is it looked upon like he's supposed to pass it over to who, his kids, and grow or whatever? Or, it'll, for our businesses, more than likely it'll be, well, it's not the same as when Mel had it, so we ain't gonna go, and then it just die off to the side. It's so many black businesses that it was only good for the person that was there. But when you look at other businesses, they were able to scale up, diversify, go to the stock market, all kinds of things where they started off. You hear stories where they started off in the garage with this willow tree. Started off in the garage. Now look at them, what they've grown to. You can't really find black businesses that have grown to those heights that passed it on. Look at BET. Look what Bob and them did. Look who owns it. And why is that?
And I think I think that some of that stuff does exist, but I think it may be more difficult for us to see that happening. I think that there are black businesses that want to scale, but they find it difficult to be able to do so because
I'm one of them.
Because of the lack of resources that are that folks are willing to pour into them. And then also it's that mentorship piece, right? Whether it's another black-owned business or whether it's a business that, a business entrepreneur that isn't black, but being willing to share knowledge, to another individual in a way that is, that individual wants to hear it or that they're capable of receiving it. Also, being willing to put yourself in a place to basically act as that conduit to help that person to get to the next level. So for instance, having a person of means saying, you know what, I'll go in with you. I'll fund this to get you started. so that you can, you can now make some money off of this. And then the next time you'll be able to go get your own money, right?
Sis, you got a question. We only got like 3 minutes left. I hate to cut you off, but I really want to see you answer that.
Okay. Are you seeing any positive, meaningful change or signs there with the Community Reinvestment Act? That's a difficult one. I think, yes, there's the opportunity for that. I mean, you've got like Truist or the Reinvestment Act. I'm thinking of CRA. Yeah, it's the Community Reinvestment Act. Yeah. So you've got like Truist just merged, right? And SunTrust and BB&T. And part of their merger requires them to commit a certain amount of dollars to be spent in communities that are under-resourced, underserved, whatever, in order to satisfy this requirement that they are investing. Here's where our challenge comes in. The Charlottesville as a whole is seen as a wealthy community. So they get more opportunity or more bang for their buck if they invest in, say, a Richmond or a Hampton Roads or a Northern Virginia, because the bulk of Charlottesville is a wealthy community. Never mind that there's plenty of people who look like me or who may not look like me that live in Charlottesville that are not as wealthy, but our wealth is so extreme that the banks say, well, we're not going to spend that much money over here because we're not going to get that much credit for having actually been impactful with the money that we've invested in this community.
Yeah.
And so then you see all of the money going to Richmond, Hampton Roads, Northern Virginia, because one, you're going to have a lot more communities of color in those spaces, right? That have a spectrum of income that supports what those CRA dollars are intended to do. Whereas in Charlottesville, you're not going to have that same meaningful impact that the banks want to be able to demonstrate. So part of, the job of folks like myself is that I've got to go out and I've got to build the case for those banks as to why an investment here is going to be impactful and what that impact is going to look like on a statewide level, or, what it's going to look like here, but what that's going to mean to our region, and that it gives them a good story that they can then tell.
Yeah.
When they go to do their reporting.
So I got a good one for you. I shouldn't tell because I know it's going to backfire on me later. But I remember in a 3-month span with one of my businesses, I put in the bank $75K, right? Do you know when I went, they would only allow me to have a savings account and not a checking account because I was a high risk? $75K in 3 months. And they wouldn't give me a checking account and gave me a savings account.
You need a different bank.
So
and I was trying to figure out, okay, you hear about all this information about business credit and all these different things, right? But unless you can have unless they can not know what color you are, you're always going to run into these other hurdles. If the business is just a business and you could not find out who they are, not even have a name to it, to what they see what you kind of cater to, then, because if I go in there with a STEM business and I go in there with a cooking business, you know what I'm saying? They kind of start diversifying which one, this is more likely to be black and brown, this is more likely to be white. And then it just seems like I watch opportunities open for those type of things. Like, yes, I saw somebody get a crazy loan because they wanted to spray for mosquitoes. It wasn't even a question. They got a crazy loan to be able to start their business, right?
Well, and they had a lot of mosquitoes here.
And they had nothing. You know what I'm saying? Can you say a little more about the New Hill Development Partnership with CIC? Let me go before you go there, so because I don't want to go. With the CIC, it's a great program. I went through CIC, right? Some of the pitfalls that I found with CIC, and I love all of them there, is that the fact of you had to be at a certain standard in order to receive what you felt you needed for the business. Now, I'm not saying that was my circumstance, but some of the circumstances from the other classmates that came through. Like, they had a great business model, but they had horrible lives. So then getting somebody to co-sign and invest in their past is not something that programs that I saw like CIC are willing to invest in. But you take an organization like the Fountain Fund that says, okay, well, I'm only going to help you if you've been locked up. So, you like, okay, let me go here. And then I hold the largest grant that ever came through Fountain Fund, which is why the Wall Street Journal came down and did an article on me in Martez Tolbert, right, about the banking system after being in trouble. But when it comes to, like, CIC is what DART and all that, I look at it in the same, from my information base, I look at the same business model type thing. One may be ahead of the other, of course. But when it comes to, you go through the whole program and then you're sitting there with your past can prohibit your growth. Mm-hmm. And black people, I don't think, have figured out how to get past that point. Because there are more businesses that have went through CIC that are not in business because they couldn't obtain the capital. Right. Even with somebody who has sat there with them for whatever amount of weeks to help you develop the business, but then won't give you the money to develop the business. I find that a difficult thing.
So it's interesting that you hit on that point, because one of the things that New Hill would like to be able to do and partner with CIC is, and I went through CIC, I went through their very first class. Mm-hmm. And what I saw as a person who ran multi-million-dollar businesses, I felt like, I have a pretty good understanding around the financial stuff, but I didn't feel like that everybody, once you got through CIC, would have that same level of knowledge. And so what we're wanting to do is we're saying, first of all, you mentioned something about business credit. Until you've done millions and millions of dollars in business, it's always going to come back to your personal credit, bottom line. And so it's kind of this myth that, if I get a DUNS number and I start, I got my business account, that suddenly people are going to just start looking
Taps gonna flow.
That they're going to just look at what my business has done. Nope, it's always going to come back to you. And so at New Hill, we have a financial coach. Bernard Whitsett is our financial coach. And how we would like to partner with CIC is we want to be able to sit down with entrepreneurs when they come in the door and say, let's take a look at your credit. Let's take a look at what your financial your plan is, right? So that we can see, are you in a position where ultimately you're going to be able to get funded, right? Because if you've got, assets, or you've got good credit, then, you're going to be in a better position to get funded at the end of this. However, if you've got some challenges, while you're going through the 16-week program, let us be working on a plan to get you ready. Mm-hmm. What I find, and I don't know that this is CIC's reason that they don't do it, but what I hear in our community as we are seeking to partner to help build the financial knowledge and the financial capability within our community is that oftentimes white leaders look at if they require that they're adding another stumbling block to especially that black person's path, because they're requiring them to go through some financial coaching. But how many wealthy people don't have a financial team?
Right.
How many, and you don't have to be wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone should have financial coaches. Everyone should be working with people whose job it is every day.
Right. You either pay them or somebody else does. But everybody who who manages wealth relies on somebody else, usually who they pay.
Exactly. And the things that they're trying to do is help you grow, help you save, help you not lose, help you to understand.
Help you not pay taxes.
Exactly. Absolutely. They're doing those kinds of things. And yet we somehow see it as many in our community see it, and people see it as it relates to us, that if you're going through financial coaching or you're working with a financial coach, then that must mean that you're ignorant or that you have bad credit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that I want to make sure I have a good plan around this. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure. And so because that's not happening, many times people get to the end, they've gotten their plan, but they don't have the plan for the finance piece. And so now they're ready, and they're like, hey, I got my idea. I've worked on my business plans. Now I'm ready for you to fund it. Can you fund it now? And then it's like, okay, well, let's pull your credit and let's see. Or I need you to submit this, and this, and this for us to consider your application. and you've never been asked to submit those things before. And so now you're suddenly, the things that we're going to ask you for are all the things that a bank is going to ask you for, or anybody that's going to loan you money is going to ask you for. So that if you can't do it here, we're going to walk you through the paces to help you get there, because we understand that if you can make money, you can spend money just as fast as you make it if you don't know what to do with that money once you make it. The same habits that you have in your own personal life, you're going to have it in your business life as well. So if you don't know where money is going at home, you're not going to know where it's going in your business. Our goal is to be able to say, okay, how can we come together and we ensure that entrepreneur makes it, once they go through this program, that if they have a business plan that's fundable, let's get it funded. Where the incubator, where we want that to come in, we want that to be the next level of knowledge, right? So that you go through CIC, that helps you think through how to start your business. With the incubator, we want to say, okay, you want to do a food business? We're in the process now of developing a curriculum just for food businesses, because you now need to understand how to manage and grow a food business. It's not the same thing as, I'm opening an auto shop or whatever. Everybody's performance indicators are different depending on what sector they're in. We're starting with food because that seems to be one of the largest sectors that we're in. But over time, we want to grow what we're interested in. That's right? We want to grow us in tech. We want to grow us in clean energy. We want to grow and create more opportunities around those things as well. And so we're looking down the road saying, okay, we're having the conversations today with those folks that can help us build out that portion of our incubator so that we start to diversify some of the sectors that aren't currently diverse, so that we can bring more money into our community and create more jobs in our community that are in different sectors. But at the end of the day, we've got to line up. So our goal at New Hill is to say, where are the gaps and how do we step into those gaps? And we partner with a CIC. We believe in what CIC is doing in terms of their 16-week program, but we feel like that once you get out of that program, where do you start?
Yeah. I also don't want to run down CIC because they do amazing things.
No.
And they had to shift and figure out all this micro lending stuff during COVID and the shutdown. They're doing really innovative things. And I think sometimes in Charlottesville
CIC.
we have these small programs that are amazing that somebody local thought of, like Tuan Nguyen, and it turns into something great that really has traction. And then people are like, why doesn't it solve all the problems in this huge area? And then other people are like, oh, they've got it. Like, they're CIC. Why do you need something? Yeah. Why do you need New Hill? Exactly. Right? And it's like, no, guys, this is backwards. You can't have it both ways.
Let me ask you a question. What's
we need all these things, black right?
What's white businesses and black businesses?
Razor, are you going to take this show to 2 hours today?
I don't know. But I mean, think about it though. There are jobs that when you start business, this is one thing that I've learned as a process of some of my failures, is that there are businesses that kind of transfer over to being accepted as a black business. And there's businesses that are more difficult to start if you try to do something that's considered a white business, so to speak. So I think that's one thing that I would want people to look at when it comes to entrepreneurship, is that there are things that holistically, not everybody, but holistically, there's businesses that will be more accepted for you to do. Everything that I have now started from me taking the bucket from behind the air conditioner that the water dripped in and started cleaning cars. That was my first business to me, getting to owning 4 food trucks, us having 2 talk shows on radio, limousine bus business, Moonbot, all that type of stuff, buying Columbia School of Broadcasting School, all that type of stuff started from a business that I did not want to have, because it was accepted for me to go to the car dealership and clean the cars before they went through for people to buy them. I figured that out early. I'm selling what you're buying instead of me just going and say, this is what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I don't think white people have to look at that black businesses do.
Yep.
White people's like a whiteboard, invent a product.
I'm going to do this. And
now go to Austin for 3 months.
Why am I drawing like
Now
Giles?
get $8 million.
Giles, stop moving your arm. You got my arm moving too. I don't like that. So, but yeah, that's one thing that's true.
I think, and Razor, I think you make an excellent point. There is this perception of what is acceptable. Like, I'm willing to support you doing that because I feel like that is what black people do.
That's too much right there.
You want to open a janitorial service? I totally support that. But you want to start a tech company that allows for you to create an app that you can do businesses with, youth sports. I don't know.
That's a little too much. Maybe
Yeah,
you
I
should
mean-
go talk to Giles and see if he can't help
Exactly.
you.
And I don't
what
know
I'm saying?
anything about
No,
business.
I'm just saying they'll
Except,
tell you. that.
except
Yep, you want
Yolanda's gracious enough to tell
if
me
it's
that.
if it's big enough, they'll want you to go over to a white counterpart so that they know that they have something that they trust. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if everything sounds good or not. That's just a black truth that
Yeah.
I'm not sure that everybody understands.
Yeah,
Like,
I trust this business
Yeah.
over here. And if you partner with them, and so that's what we oftentimes have to find ourselves doing is like, okay, who can I partner with
Yep.
that all these other folks trust so that I can get the bigger vision of this done? You know, and so you have, it's not necessarily a compromise, right? Like it's you got to still find the right partners, right? Like I'll partner with the CIC because I believe in what they do. I trust what they're doing, and I know the people there, and I know that their heart is definitely in the right place, right? But there may be another organization that I wouldn't trust because I don't know them, right? Or I've seen the results of what they've done. So I think you still have to be selective. But the problem is that it's who else are you partnering with? We don't believe that your organization can just do it. I am all about collaboration. I believe collaboration is supposed to happen because why reinvent the wheel when somebody else has done something that
Yeah.
you can easily just
you say that
incorporate
all the time.
and move forward faster, right? However, I still feel like that there oftentimes when you're talking to potential funders that they're looking for that because they need to feel comfortable that that it's going to be successful, and they're not asking you, what other black business do you have involved in this? They're looking for that white business that they trust.
Y'all just need to say it. Yeah, I mean, y'all need to say it. Like, look, I ain't gonna invest in 2 black people. I need a white person up in that song. I need some salt in the game. You know what I'm saying? Y'all
How
just
about
need to
start
say
a
that.
partnership with Razor? That
Yeah,
sounds
that's
like a good
crazy.
idea.
Yeah, he didn't know this was gonna be this dangerous. I know his wife was like, oh my God, where'd you find him from?
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, collaboration is the way. I mean, and so as much as, there's certain things that we want to do and we were like, look, I want to just do this independently. You can, but it may take you longer to get to your goal. I think it's really all about where are you trying to go and how fast are you trying to get there as an entrepreneur, because then that may determine like what do you have to do in order to get to your goal as fast as you want to get to it. If you're solely dependent on people just to believe in you because you've got a good product, you've got the right financials, you've got the financial modeling that says that this is going to be a business that you're going to knock out the ballpark, and you're black, that may not be enough.
Yeah. Sim project. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes all different ways. This culture of entrepreneurship goes into every sector now, right? I mean, like you even hear the language everywhere. Everybody wants ROI. Everybody wants, an exit strategy. And it's like, what if some of the work is just to keep doing the work? What if
Right.
the games we are playing are infinite games, not finite games, Yeah, like, and it reminds me of like my great granddaddy Stafford, Irish businessman, Baltimore, Stafford Brothers Furniture. He always said, if you cater to the masses, you'll dine with the classes. If you cater to the classes, you'll dine with the masses. That was his philosophy on moving up in stations, So if you're serving the rich people, you will stay where you are. If you are serving the people, you'll move up. And I wonder if that's true anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like your furniture company for 100 years between 1850 and 1950, in America, that makes perfect sense to me. Today, I don't know. Long tail markets, fluid capital, playing with debt. Maybe you should cater to rich people. You'll do better.
I think that in any business, you've got to have multiple revenue streams, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to have some things that reach different audiences, right? Because if you don't, and this particular group, experiences a significant drop off in how much money they have, then that's going to tank your business. So when you take the pandemic, for instance, and you see that if my business solely caters to, individuals that are making, up to say $50,000 a year, and most of them are working in positions that got cut as soon as the pandemic hit,
Right.
well, then guess what's going to happen to my business?
Yeah.
It's going to experience a significant loss. However, if I am diversifying my business and I have some revenue streams that cater to folks at different levels, then when these folks got hit and these folks were killing it in the market, then they can ramp up what their spend is, and I can maybe focus a little bit more over here until this group gets itself back to a place where it has some disposable income again.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
But here's my white card moment. You can pull my white card on this one. I mean, have we no shame, Charlottesville? Because people made so much money in the markets this year in this town. I mean, the scale of $100 million wealth in this town, when you have years like we just had in private equity, means the yields are catastrophic this year. So if you cannot invest in your community, in your business community, in your friends, in each other, in risks, in losses this year, you're never going to do it.
But here's what I find. They are investing, but they're investing very often in the organizations that they feel safe to invest in. They're investing in your organizations that may have a national presence, right? But they have a local, right? And so that they feel safe in. And they feel like, well, then I am doing safe because they've got programs that are designed to help, communities of color or under-resourced or underserved communities. But because they are the big boy operations, I feel comfortable investing in them.
And
And
let
I
it
feel
trickle
like
down.
They'll just have to give their money to Charlottesville tomorrow.
And again,
I
a
agree.
white-led organization, right?
Yep. Yeah, those are one of the things. Now, I'll end with, this will be my last comment. So, but when you told me to cater to the rich, I almost heard leave the black. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have a lot of rich black friends. So if I cater to them, I separate myself from my own people. And that's something that a lot of black businesses have done, and then try to take the money back and try to help where they can.
Yeah.
As opposed to, which is fine too.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what great granddaddy Stafford wanted to do.
Yeah,
To
that was-
separate himself from the Irish cops on the beat. He wanted to live out in
you
Glen
have
Burnie
to,
with a
man.
big house.
It's always a chess game for black entrepreneurs because there is no model that Yolanda and I have written in the beginning that we could just ride off into the sunset. There's so many different variables that we had to accommodate, and it's not just the 400-year head start that white people had over black people. It's also, okay, there are things put in place to make sure that you don't catch me, but nobody wants to talk about those type things. So if I say, okay, one major thing that they did when it comes to entrepreneurship in the African American family is, okay, we had mass incarceration, so we're gonna say we're only gonna give loans to people who haven't had haven't had felonies. So at that point, you've taken out a lot of heads of households right there. So then the women had to step forward and try to take care of a home and take care of a business. And I really can't have anything to do with my husband or boyfriend because it will take from the loan that I have. There are certain things that have been put in place in order to grow one side of our community. So then if a black male aspires to do certain things and he isn't squeaky clean and doesn't align himself with certain people, it's difficult to get to a point where you can just take care of your family and be fine and go vacation where you want to. That really doesn't exist, but nobody wants to talk about those type things because then you start talking about how the system was put in place to hold people down while they give money to, like, you'll take a child, you lock up a dad. He can't pay child support, he go to jail. Mom can't take care of the child, they'll give her housing and all these other things, but then send her to school. But then if she makes past a certain point, she loses her housing. So then she goes to some local church or something where they're having a class instead of being able to go to college and take some classes on how to work on her credit and how to do some schooling stuff or learn some businesses, and then we're going to give her a loan, but her business is based out of her house and not a storefront. So there's the difference. But you'll say, because sometimes when I see black people say, yeah, I got a business in this, and they say, okay, where is it located? Well, one of the best things that ever happened was being able to say, oh, my business is online. Because black, white, green, yellow, everybody's business is online. But before you were able to holler about it was online and you said your business is out of your house, you were looked down upon, regardless of what your product was. If your business was not a storefront type business, or I sell the exact same food on my 6-foot cart that I do on my 30-foot trailer. Same menu, but I'm looked upon differently. Why is that? The food is the same. Any restaurant you pick, we all sitting at Sam's with the same grease. We cooking out the same cow. But how is this one so much better just because of the image that has been portrayed? And that's been something that's been set up to make one entrepreneur look better than another entrepreneur.
All right, we got to wrap this show up.
We ain't got to do nothing. That's how you got to talk.
We got to wrap this show up, but Razor will continue the show.
Says you got to give me some of that. That's how you got to talk to him. He don't run nothing around here. Look.
Yolanda, you want to wrap the show?
Yes. It'd be our honor.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you both for inviting me, giving me an opportunity to come on and talk about entrepreneurism, which is something I'm so passionate about. And I think that, these truths, this truth telling and truth talking is something that we have to continue to do, in order for us to really be able to work through those things that are, stifling the growth of our community in the way that we want to grow. So thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to watch the show.